again for joining us for our third installment of Fundraising Friday. It's surprising we are already at number 3. Mary Ellen has shared so much information with us thus far. I can't wait to hear what she has to say today about our major fundraising. For those of you who have been with us thus far in the series, I know you know Mary Ellen's background, but for anyone who may be new, for the last 25 years, Mary Ellen has worked in the nonprofit fundraising profession, from small one-person shops to supervising a large staff of fundraising employees. She was trained at the University of Pittsburgh billion-dollar campaign effort, where she worked the $250 million School of Medicine campaign. And later, she led the $8 million effort for School of Education. She went on to lead fundraising at the University of Texas at El Paso, overseeing an $18 million a year program. Her consulting practice helps nonprofits in Arkansas and nationwide. Mary Ellen is an advocate for the prevention and recovery of domestic abuse and violence and for the unsheltered community in Central Arkansas. She has written over 1,000 grants over the years. We have seen a few through the Arkansas Humanities Council. And she currently teaches at the University of Central Arkansas at the School of Communication, and also teaches fundraising and grant writing for students in the UA Little Rock Public Administration Master's Program and at the Clinton School of Public Service. Mary Ellen, thank you again. We are so looking forward to this third installment of Fundraising Friday. I will hand it over to you.
Yeah, I'm excited today because today we talk about transformational gifts, gifts that cannot just help you one year, but they can transform your nonprofit. So I'm really excited. So I'm going to go ahead and share our slides. I'm going to pull up my little tools here. Okay, so today, of course, is our third installment. Sorry, that's the wrong slide there. Today is our third installment, Major Gift Fundraising. And we are going to focus, of course, today on what is a major gift? How can small to mid-sized nonprofits start a major gift program? Those are going to be our big takeaways. The big tagline, many people call major gifts the 10% who give 90. And that means it's a small portion of your donors, but they give a huge amount of the total revenue each year, possibly to your organization. So again, our goals, we're just going to work on today learning the basics and the terminology for a major gift program. No, we're going to go a little fast today, but the PDF of all the slides Miss Adrienne has, and she'll be able to send it to everyone. So know that you'll have all of this information for you. My goal for you is you have 1 to 2 big takeaways that you can start to implement immediately. And in general, right, because you can't spell fundraising without fun. We want to try and have a little bit of a good time. I don't have as many good jokes this time. Joey, you'll have to know next time I had much better jokes, right? I'll have to have them better for you. A quick overview. We did talk about this in our first session. Total giving in 2022 was $499 billion in the United States. That comes from this report, Giving USA. Typically comes out in June or July of each year. And it really is the standard of report for the previous year. And what's important to know, and the reason why I'm repeating this slide, is you look at giving by individuals. So our gut instinct, again, is to go immediately towards corporations, foundations for our giving. But really, individuals, if you look, gave 73% of that $499 billion. You can see the big orange in here. And then even if you add in that bequests, right? So 64 million directly from individuals. And then another, 64% of the money came from individuals. And then another 9%, almost $45 billion came from bequests. which is what we'll talk about in our next session 4, about plan giving. So that's a special subset of major giving. So just keep that in mind. Individuals give away more money than any other constituency. So again, why do donors give? My very first boss, Trisha Rangis, I always give her credit for this, said people give because they have it in their hearts, right? They have it in their pocketbook. They have resources to give you. And then here's the key, they're asked. So that's why, in the easiest way to think about it, people give. They care about you, they have resources, and they're asked. Now, last session we talked about in the annual giving program, every contact is an ask. It's an email, it's a social media post, it might be a snail mail letter. But when you're reaching out in the annual fund, you're reaching out with an ask. Major giving is a little bit different. So if you recur last time, we talked about annual giving and first time giving. That's the base of this pyramid, right? That's the base of this pyramid. They're the largest number of donors that you have, right? The largest number of donors that you have are going to be in the annual giving. But as the pyramid goes up, gifts get larger and larger. So by the time you get to major gifts, capital giving, and wills and bequests and trusts, this again is all from individuals, right? It's all from individuals. And that's when you get 10% of your donors, really the peak of this pyramid, are giving you 90% of that money. So what is a major gift? So there's many different ways to define a major gift. I kind of took some of this from my years of practice, from things I've learned over the years. But in general, it's 10 times someone's annual gift. So if they're giving you $1,000 a year, their major gift might be $10,000 a year. Right. It's also a gift that typically is paid over 3 to 5 years because it's a large amount. So if someone's going to pledge $25,000 as a major gift, they might give you $5,000 a year for 5 years for a total of that $25,000. Major gifts do, right, because it's a large amount of money, it does have significant decision making because not all major gifts are cash gifts, like an annual fund gift, cash gift, right? You can even cash app people now donations, right? But for a larger gift that's going to be paid in installments, people can give you non-cash resources, bequests, trusts, insurance policies, etc. A lot of appreciated securities, right? A lot of major gifts come through stock. And again, because there's significant decision making in maybe the how they're going to give you the money through their resources, it may involve financial advisors, accountants, attorneys, etc. My first major gift boss, Dave D'Alessandro, told me that major gifts are always a stop and think gift because you are asking someone to commit part of their life savings to your organization. So it's a gift they're not going to make. They're going to have to think about it. They're going to really have to think about it. It's a stop and think moment. And in general, major gifts are not frequently asked because they're too large and people are paying over many years. So they're asked only on occasion. So what's a major gift for your organization? The answer is going to be, it depends. Right. So for really large nonprofits like Arkansas Children's Hospital or maybe UA Little Rock, a large gift might be $100,000. Right. That might be that's where their major gift level starts. Some organizations, smaller organizations, might be 50 or even 25. That's what they're going to say. Our major gift program is going to start at $25,000. For smaller nonprofits, like many of us that we lead and work for, it might just be 5,000 or even 1,000 might be your first level of major gift. It's all going to depend on your organization. And in general, again, you want to think it's about 10 times someone's annual fund gift. So if someone's giving you $1,000 a year, their major gift, again, the level might be $10,000. Some budget news about major gift fundraising: it's incredibly cost effective, right? You don't spend a lot of actual resources to create a major gift program. In general, it costs between 6 and 20 cents per dollar raised. And unlike special events, we talked a little bit about special events last time, they can cost as much as 50 to 75 cents per dollar raised when you factor in staff time. So a major gift program is a good financial investment. For some organizations, 90% of their revenue each year, their donations, are typically from major gifts. It's the cheapest method, but it also has the greatest reward, right? The cheapest method of raising money, but it has the greatest award, that transformational moment. And as we'll talk about for a majority of our presentation today, it is relationship based and it develops over time. So it's not instant. So you can't say, I'm going to start a major gift program today and in 3 weeks have my first $100,000 gift, right? Because remember, these are stop and think moments for people. So it takes time to develop a major gift. Just some terminology for fundraising programs. Major gift prospects is usually the term we use to discuss our donors who might be able to give us that large gift, right? We call them major gift prospects. Some people even abbreviate it MGPs. So you'll see prospects, you'll see major gift prospects. That's what we call these donors who could possibly give. And again, as the size of the gift grows, right, it changes the way the donor is responding. It's going to take longer for someone's motivation to give, right? You're going to need more passion for your organization, more desire. It's going to take more inputs, right? They might need to consult with their spouse, with their financial advisor, with their accountant. We'll talk about this again in a second, but this is David D'Alessandra's advice, right? My boss from the University of Pittsburgh and their $1 billion campaign. As a gift develops, the way you give, right? The resources are going to be more and more rational. I'm going to give appreciated securities. I'm going to give an insurance policy. I'm going to give property, right? So the way someone gives becomes more and more rational. But the decision to give as the gift progresses becomes more and more emotional, more and more emotional. And just something to think about, the consequences of a poor decision for your donor becomes greater, right? So we have to think these things through. Now, I have to confess, for some of us more mature members of our audience, I look back, this slide I created originally in 2006. So, but I did do some double checking, and in general, most of this still stands. Some people will now say there's 7 motivations for major gifts. Some will say 12, right? I've seen as many as 12, as few as 7. But why do people give? Right? This is just some way of thinking. We've been thinking this way almost the past 20 years. The number one reason is because they believe in the mission of your organization. Right? That's the number one reason why people give. People are going to think it's tax savings, but if you look, what is the 9th reasons that people give? Tax savings. So that's kind of at the bottom of the list, right? That's maybe the more rational part of giving, but the more emotional part of giving, the one that leads to this big gift in the end, is belief in your mission. And then community responsibility, right? They feel they want to make a difference in the community. And really, this is important, the fiscal and financial stability of your organization, right? Fiscal responsibility is very, very important. That trust, because again, someone's giving you a portion of their life savings here. So they really want to trust that you will be good stewards of that money. Then we get into organizational leadership, volunteers, being on your board. Guilt doesn't quite work as well as you might think it does. And of course, appeal of promotional material. A lot of people say we can't start a major gift program until we have a brochure. But if you notice, that's way down on the list. So you can start without that brochure. But again, as this gift grows in magnitude, it takes longer for the motivation to give to develop. Your donor is going to need more passion. They're also going to need to speak with their financial advisor, right? So they might have to talk to their accountant, their attorney. So they might be talking to their attorney over here saying, hey, I want to make this gift. What are some ways for me to do it? And again, the closer someone gets to making a major gift for you, the more rational they're going to become and the way they give the gift in terms of resources. But the decision is going to become more emotional. So I don't know. Has anyone, I'll pull up everyone on my screen just super fast. You won't be on the video unless you're talking. So everyone can just give me a thumbs up either through the emoji, the reactions on your Zoom, or you can just give me a thumbs up if you have your camera on. Has anyone heard of the major gift cycle before? Okay, good. Okay, so we have some who have, some who have not. That's okay. That's good. So the major gift cycle is, in general, this idea started kind of in the 90s when fundraising became less and less of a job that people fell into and more of a profession or career. That kind of started, right? Fundraising as a career really came into its own in the late 80s, early 90s. And people started thinking through, what's the process that someone does to become a major gift donor? So the idea they came up with is the major gift cycle. And I have to admit, this has been around for so long, I don't even know who invented this anymore, because it's just been such a staple of major gift thinking. So what this is saying is, as a potential donor, you go through a series of steps. But you go through a series of steps. The first one is you identify who might be a prospect, who's a potential donor for you. You start by identifying them. Then you're going to cultivate that person. Right. And then after you cultivate them for a specific amount of time, then you're going to literally ask them, you're going to solicit them for that gift. And if they say yes, then you're going to steward that gift, right? You're going to steward that gift. And in general, this cycle from when you first identify someone as a potential major gift donor to when the gift comes to fruition, in general, the rule of thumb is you're looking at about 18 to 36 months, right? This isn't fast. Now, it might be faster if someone's been on your board for 6 years already and they know about your organization, right? If they already have, in a sense, they've already been cultivated, they've already been really engaged in your mission. So you're not, in a sense, starting from scratch. But in general, you're looking at 18 to 36 months. So a year to up to 3 years. So again, these are not quick gifts. Right? These are not quick gifts. So let's just quickly talk about each one of these stages. What do we mean by identify someone? You say, hey, I think this person might be a potential major gift prospect. I don't know yet, but they might be. So how might you identify people? You might look at their giving history. You might look, are they a member of your stakeholders? Does one of your staff members know them really well and think they might be able to be a major gift donors? You can pay someone to mine your data and to take you, in a sense, what you do is you give them your entire database to screen, and they have certain ways, right, where they screen your donors, and then they give you a list. Probably if you give them maybe 2,000 names, they're probably going to give you a list of about maybe 100 people, maybe 150 to 200 people who might be potential major gift donors. You can, and we'll talk about this later on in our presentation, you can do some things for free. If you don't have money to do data mining, don't worry. I have some secret tips for you. Shh, don't tell anyone else. But we'll talk about some secret ways you can identify people. You can look at, do they hold any SEC stock that has to be publicly declared? Remember, if you're an officer or if you own a certain percentage of stock in a company, you must publicly declare it to the SEC, right? That's to prevent that insider trading. Wink. We'll talk a little bit more about that database later. You can also look at people's title. If their title is CEO and it's a very large regional bank, that might help identify them. You can also do a quick social media search or Google search and find out, are they a prominent person in the community? Have they given to other organizations and so forth? So again, identifying people is just creating a list of people who might be, right? We're in this very first stage here, identification. They might be a potential donor. However, my boss, David Delacindra, the one who trained me in major gift fundraising, always believes they have to be more than just identified. They have to be qualified. Now, some people these days will call this process discovery. You're discovering a potential donor. So no, some large fundraising operations call this a discovery process. But really, to be qualified, you have to have both these two things, the capacity to give and the intent to give. Or you have to have both. You can be identified like, who owns the Dallas Cowboys? Somebody remind me. Jerry, I'm like my football knowledge is escaping me.
Jerry
Jerry
Jones.
Jones.
Yes, I have seen Mr. Jones on many potential prospect lists for here in Little Rock. And so I'll say, yes, he has capacity, but does he know of your organization? Is he already a donor? And then their answer is no. Okay, that might be a little bit of what I would call wishful thinking. Because remember, people need all three of these things to give. They need to have it in their hearts, they need to have it in their pocketbook, and then they have to be asked. So qualification is once you have a list of people, then you might need to start visiting them. You might need to discuss things with them to make sure they have capacity to give and they have affection for your nonprofit. Right? So as it's said below, this is best achieved through a personal visit, right? You might want to just take them to lunch or have coffee, start that conversation with you. You're not asking them for anything at this point. You're just finding out, do they care about your organization? Okay, so now let's quickly talk about the second step. This is the step that many people believe takes the longest. This is really the 18 months, the cultivation. Cultivation is the relationship building, right? You have the fundraiser here. We have our donor sitting here drinking coffee, looking at maybe some data or latest report of the nonprofit. This is cultivation. This is that relationship building. So cultivation is a series of calculated activities and contacts designed to build a relationship between your nonprofit and your prospect. And by this cultivation, your prospect would be considered being readied for solicitation or prepared, or you're building that, right? You're strengthening that heart, right? That caring, that intent to give to your organization. Cultivation, again, is the time. It takes the 18 to 36 months. Because remember, you are asking someone for a part of their life savings. So you want to, right, make sure you have a really good relationship built. Some fundraisers call this these moments in cultivation, they'll call them a series of steps, right? Some people say you need 7 contacts before you can ask, right? There's all these different rules of thumb out there. But in general, what's happening is as you visit them, they start to move through this major gift cycle. Right? They're starting to move through the various stages. When this was first invented in the 1990s, it was called moves management because you were moving people through the major gift cycle. Right? So what are some examples of cultivation? This coffee or lunch visit we talked about. It could be a tour of your nonprofit or your campus. It could be you invite them to attend lectures or Zooms about the area of your expertise. So if you are a nonprofit that is doing a series of maybe webinars about historic content in Little Rock, right? You might invite them personally to be your guest at a lecture if it's face to face, or if it's Zooming, you might say, "Hey, we're going to have this Zoom. We'd love for you to join us." And of course, it can involve just really simple things like introducing them to key staff, other stakeholders, right? Other clients, if appropriate, like who among your stakeholders could this person meet? It might be simple as inviting them to campus for coffee with one of your board members, right? Again, cultivation moments, we are not asking, right? We are not asking, we're just building the relationship. You could also invite people to receptions. You can invite them to volunteer opportunities. One strategy that we used when I worked at the University of Texas, El Paso is when we were having a reception for a gift, we were celebrating a gift, we might invite potential other donors so they could see that moment of the giving. And of course, you could also invite people to join your board if they're potential donors. The key is you want to have moments that share your mission, right? You want to invite them to something that shares your mission, right? Now let's talk about solicitation, the asking. And this is from the Center for Major Gifts. I do love their website. I'm not endorsing any products or websites. I'm just saying I find theirs personally very useful. But they say solicitation is the time when you make a compelling argument to a donor about why they should financially support your nonprofit. And by this time, before you ask, they should understand the value of your mission. And they not just understand the value of their mission, they are ready to invest. So solicitation is this very last stage down here in this corner. Oh, let me bring up my laser pointer. I forgot to do that. Let me bring up that laser pointer. Aha, here we go. This is the asking moment. The asking moment, right? Okay, so this is also rules of thumb. Like people in major gift fundraising, we'd like to have little slogans. So one slogan is the 4 W's. And this is from a major gift newsletter. I put the link down here in the slide. But the 4 W's are basically, who should you ask for money? Who should do the asking? What amount should you ask for? And when should you ask, right? It's also commonly said as, who should ask whom for what amount when, right? That's the little catch slogan here. But in general, you want to think about when is a good time to ask. Now, for large fundraising programs, this is quite strategic. People even write strategies. So this is a example strategy for I'm a Rich, right? Over in North Little Rock. And you see the general time frame. I think this is going to take 12 months. Jane Doe from the development office is going to be responsible for this strategy, sometimes called the relationship manager, who's going to manage that relationship, who might volunteer. It has recent background. It has a strategy. It has a suggested amount for a gift, and it has a purpose. Now, no strategies is just planning. It's just brainstorming. As you go through steps, this strategy is going to change. So let's say your strategy is you are renovating a historic building and you want someone to name different rooms in that building for different amounts. Maybe the main foyer, the entryway in that building, the naming opportunity for that is going to be $750,000. Right? But as you go through these stages with I'm Rich, she tells you she really, really likes endowment giving. You're going to change gears there, and your strategy and your next steps are going to change as you cultivate. So this is really a plan, and it's a plan that is always developing. So that's just some strategy and how you plan out that 4 W's. But here's my personal tips from having done this many, many times. Never surprise someone with a major gift solicitation. In fact, I always say that's why people hate fundraisers, right? Like professional fundraisers, if you'll know that look, the donor gets a look in their eye. Like I had one woman who kind of braced herself up and she said, I'm just waiting for you to come in for the kill. Like I'm harmless. I was just taking her out, right? I wasn't going to ask her. So I said, Miss I'm a Rich, I will never ask you for money without your permission. She said, what do you mean? I said, if I'm going to ask you again for money, I will say, Ms. Rich, may I come see you next Tuesday to talk about another gift? She said, and you won't ask me before then? I'm like, no. And our whole relationship changed. So never do a surprise gift ask, right? Never, no surprises. Instead, you want it to be planned. You want to ask someone's permission to ask. I even really say that in annual fund leadership giving. If you're going to ask someone for $1,000 to join your annual gift leadership society, you say, hey, can I come see you next Thursday for coffee? And maybe we can talk about you joining our leadership giving society, right? So people know when you're coming to ask. You should always have something in writing so people know what you are asking for. Or if you don't, or if something changes during your solicitation meeting, the moment when you actually literally ask for the commitment, you want to have a follow-up letter or document. Know that it's okay if people say no. If it's declined, you either move them back into the cultivation cycle or you move them into something that's called inactive. So, and ideally, the solicitation stage, you want someone's answer within the three to 6 months, right? Usually that you'll get an answer within the 3 to 6 months. Once you go over 6 months, I have found the gift's not going to happen anymore. So, this is just my general best practices through my experience that I've had. And then my other one I don't have up in here, but when you ask, once you get the ask out, you have to stay silent for a while, right? Like if you literally say, will you consider a gift of $25,000 to name this dining room in our historic building? And you have to wait. You have to wait to see how they respond, right? So make sure you're giving your donor the opportunity to respond to you. Okay, again, so we talked about this major gift cycle, this 18 to 36 month process. Once someone says yes, yay, ring the bells, right, make the noisemakers, then they get moved into this last stage, stewardship. And stewardship is simply when we thank our donor. We might have a celebration, we might create a plaque, we might do a press release if they want that advertised. Again, you want to plan out what are you going to do to thank this donor, especially if they're paying in payments, right? If they're giving you $20,000 a year for 3 years for $60,000, then you want to keep contact with them over those 3 years. And then in general, if stewardship is done well, eventually they move back into a potential cultivation stage. Because there is the phrase, our best future donors are our current donors well stewarded. This is an old fundraising motto. Okay. So, okay. Oops. Okay, but I jokingly say we want to do the breakfast club here. We don't want to take this lovely couple who just invested in us with part of their life savings and forget about them. So we want to remember the breakfast club. So if you want, you can break into the song from the 80s, Don't You Forget About Me here. We don't want to forget about people once they've given. Stewardship is still an active moment. We're still thanking, we're engaging them. In fact, I jokingly call them the breakfast club because a great thing to do with people who have already given is take them out for breakfast. So don't forget about your donors once they have given. Inactive, people are afraid of putting a potential donor in an active stage. This means they're clearly going to state that they're not going to give you a gift at this time. And they're not going to make a gift anytime in the near future. Right? So in a sense, this gift cycle has stopped and the constituent is not expected to return for some time. But don't be afraid of this because in general, with our donors, we are on a lifetime journey with the donor, right? And the donor does not give based on our needs for the nonprofit and our nonprofit's timeline. The donor gives on their timeline, right? So always remember that it is okay if someone says no. Is absolutely okay. So the easiest ways to get started is you create a list of potential donors, you start visiting, and remember, major gifts is all about relationship building. So how do you get started? The first thing you can do is review your data. You want to screen your data. You want to look at people who give frequently, who have given to you recently, and who give you a really one of your larger annual fund gifts, right? How frequently do they give? How recently have they given? And what amount do they give? So if you have a database, you can run a report looking at these 3 items. That's going to be a great way. We talked about once you are creating this list of potential donors, if you have someone, you can also check out who from your annual fund Leadership Society is giving large gifts to other organizations in the community. So I jokingly say the person who loved that giving list in the back of the rep program or the back of the symphony program is always a fundraiser. Right? In fact, you'll see fundraisers turn to that back of the program immediately. Right? That's the first thing fundraisers do. They want to know who is giving where and how much. Right? Because that's a way you can say, hey, if they're giving the rep $5,000 and they're giving us $500 a year, maybe we can ask them to give us a gift in that $5,000 range at some point if we build that relationship, right? You can also ask your board for leads. Your board sometimes has ins in the community. I had a board member, and one time I said, boy, we really need someone to name this new building. And do you have any idea who might be able to do it? And they're like, oh, so and so just sold his business for $20 million. I wouldn't have known that, but she told me. I was like, excellent. So that's kind of where that potential major donor was identified there. Again, of course, you can also pay people to screen your donors for you, but many of us don't have those resources. So what you can do is you can try these two techniques. You can, in a sense, pull a report from your database or even your Excel spreadsheet on what is considered a rich zip code. Okay? Who's living in certain rich zip codes? And now, especially with a 4-digit extension, you can really narrow down certain areas of the Heights or Chenal or Lakewood, right? These certain areas where, in a sense, people have more resources to live in those areas. Now, this isn't a guarantee, but it's just starting to give you an idea of who might be able to give you a major gift. You can also, this is really good. You can look at their SEC holdings. This is my secret, right? Because SEC.gov has a social database. So you can take your top 100 donors, spend an hour one day, and put their names in here. You might be surprised who has publicly held stock. And remember, if they're at a certain corporate level, if they're at a certain level of a corporate officer, as a corporate officer or board member, or if they just own a large portion of stock in a particular company, they must declare that with the SEC. And this database is free. So that is a secret, right? That's a secret right there. And it'll take you about an hour to plug in about 100 names. So that's an hour worth spending. And then once you have this list, you want to mark them or code them in your database or even an Excel spreadsheet. Create a new column. Major gift prospect, yes, no. And then a second column, stage in the gift cycle, right? And you would start by placing everyone in the gift cycle. If you've never met them, if you don't have a good relationship with them, you'd put them in identification qualification. If you have a strong existing relationship with them, you might move them right into that cultivation. But and then again, you're going to start visiting. Major gifts happen face to face. We visit, right? In fact, my boss one time printed up a sign, and he put, this is David D'Alessandro again, who trained me in major gifts. The sign said, if you can see the sun, you're not raising money. Meaning if I was sitting behind my desk, I wasn't raising any money, right? You have to visit. But now we can also Zoom. We can, of course, meet people for coffee, all those good things. And again, you're in that 18 to 36 month timeline. If the major gift prospect cycle is a little overwhelming for you, you can even simplify it further. You can move it down into we're informing, we're involving, we're inspiring. So the major gift cycle, in a sense, we are informing, we're involving, and we're inspiring, right? And then we're informing and involving, and then we're inspiring, right? So if this is too complex for you, that's absolutely okay, especially if you're a small organization. So go to the 3 I's. Who do I need to inform? Who do I need to involve? Who do I need to inspire? This comes from a man named Tom Crawford. He invented this way back in the 90s, in about 1997. I have the privilege of working with him. He was at the University of Pittsburgh. He came up with this idea of the 3 I's way, way back then. And I even made it wavy so we remember, right? I made his little wave, gave it a little wiggle so we can remember the 3 I's. It's the easiest way to remember. We inform, we involve, we inspire. Again, it still takes almost that 18 to 36 months, but we can go to those 3 I's. These are my favorite books. They're all still available if you want to learn a little bit more about major gift fundraising. I love Laura Fredericks, right? She's not like super well known or popular, but she has these great books, and she has such great sample letters and emails that she sends people. She gives you really great scenarios on how to ask people for money. If you have a board member that you want to talk to about joining you and asking for major gifts, Gerald Panis's book, this one especially asking, this one's designed to inspire board members to ask peers to give. These 2 books are phenomenal. And again, I do not have any relationship with these people. These are just books that I personally have read that I have found very helpful. And this nonprofit Essentials by Diana Newman, it's just also really good, especially if you're looking at endowment, because sometimes, endowment is where it's the savings account for nonprofits. We get the $100,000 in endowment, we invest that money, and then we only spend a certain percentage of the invested income each year, right? So that would be that endowment. And Diana Newman has a great book on endowment building. So again, remember, there's a PDF of all these slides, so you don't have to worry about having missed something or not written something down. My overall goal is for you is to always stay mission centered, always stay mission centered. Keep the fun in the fundraising, right? If you're not, you should be enjoying your time with potential donors, right? Enjoying this major gift prospect. Because if you can enjoy it, then your donors are going to enjoy it. Do things that are enjoyable, right? Meet for coffee and, take people to dinner, have people for events. Tours are so fantastic. And again, always ask permission to ask, and you will keep the fun in fundraising. What removes the fun out of fundraising and just makes it drazing is a surprise solicitation, and you don't want that. And of course, join us next time. Here's the slide I wanted, right? Plan giving, right? Next time we're talking about plan giving in January. And if you notice, we are going up this major gift pyramid, right? We're giving up this pyramid of donors. We started down here with the annual fund. Then today we did major gifts. And next session, we're going to talk about plan giving, when an individual makes their largest commitment of their life to you through a gift of a bequest, a trust, a life insurance property, right? Those are typically someone's largest gifts. They come at the end, typically. It's the ultimate donor relationship. And then we're available for questions. Woo! Woo! Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing and we can go back to any slide. Oh, and we're perfectly on time. Look at that. Excellent. So again, that was a lot of information. I know it was a lot of information with you, but you can rewatch the video. You can ask any questions right now. We are here to help you start a major gift program.
Mary Ellen, as always, this is so much good information. I know I have a ton of notes over here on my end to go with your slides. I'd like to open it up to anyone who has any questions for Mary Ellen. I said this last time, but it's true. I'm sure she has an answer. Anyone else? All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. Mary Ellen, thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. As always, this is so much good information and so many good tips and so thoughtful and insightful with our major gift fundraising today. It's truly a chess, not checkers. We have to take time and be methodical and think things through. And this was such a good presentation. Everyone, as I mentioned before, we do have Mary Ellen's 2 previous workshops live on our YouTube channel. I will share that with everyone here today. This one will go up on the channel as well before her next presentation on the first Friday of next month. And we look forward to seeing you there. Thanks, everybody.